Be presenting our project on ancient Roman elections by Steve Bowers and Charles Houseman. Alright, so this picture is a picture of the ancient Roman government hierarchy, and on top we had the councils, and the councils were comprised of two people, and they had nearly all the power within Rome and were in charge of running the government. The councils were elected by the common people. Below them we had the Senate, and the people within the Senate were chosen by the councils. So the common people had no say in who was elected there. The Senate was responsible for spending the government money, communicating the council's messages to the people, and helping the council make decisions. And finally, below them, we had the Assembly, and the Assembly was comprised of basically small different subgroups that control a specific aspect of life. And to get into Assembly, people were voted by the common people. Alright, so this is a picture of a forum, or basically a common meeting place that the campaigners could meet their supporters. Oftentimes, people who were campaigning dressed in a very white toga to distinguish themselves from others. And a common strategy for the campaigners was to memorize all their supporters' names as a way to show gratitude for them. Okay, so this slide is just a common example of an ancient Roman marketplace, and that even though elections only occurred annually, the whole election process, along with government and politics, were a large part of ancient Roman culture and life. And everyone always looked forward to the elections, and for some it was so important that they considered it like a holiday. Okay, so this image represented the Roman Senate and government, SPQR, and at the time it was called the Senatus Populusque Romanus, which meant the Roman Senate and the people. And another job of the Senate was they had the responsibility of narrowing the candidates down to whom they thought would be the best candidates to vote upon in the upcoming election. So this meant that sometimes when you were voting, so let's say you were voting for someone and you didn't see your favorite candidate, that means that the Senate believed that he was not worthy of receiving any votes. Another cool, interesting fact about the election process is that the way they determined who voted first was based off of your common social hierarchy or your social status. So at the top we have the patricians, and these were wealthy landowners, senators, praetors, councils. So these people voted first, and then below them we had the poor small farm owners and just kind of your general merchants. And then below them were the freedmen, which were basically just slaves that were free, and they become low quality merchants and traders. And then we had slaves, but unfortunately slaves and freedmen were not often allowed to vote. Okay, so this is a map of the voting districts in present-day Italy. But in ancient Rome, there were 35 voting districts when an election occurred. And this meant that ancient Rome candidates were elected based upon the number of regional district wins in the city and not just the popular vote. And this system was thought to be more fair and reduce corruption and minimize the need for a total recount. But however, there was a lot of corruption that occurred within ancient Roman elections. Okay, so this is a picture of the outdoor scene at which an election would occur. And elections would occur outdoors, and this ultimately caused this was one of the reasons why an election was corrupt, because there was a lot of peer pressure from others to vote for a specific candidate, so it wasn't really a fair ballot. And as you can see on the right, there's a ballot box, and that is called a cista. That's where all the ballots were placed. Again, here is another picture And this slide also shows the political corruption, as it focuses on the political bribery that many of the campaign candidates used in order to ascend themselves to the top and be able to gain power within the Roman government. So, one very famous Roman leader who was well recognized was someone who used bribery to their advantage was Julius Caesar. And this can be seen in this slide right here. Okay, so unfortunately, Roman elections essentially ended when Julius Caesar's adopted son and heir to the throne, Augustus Caesar, took power in 27 BC. He became a dictator, basically, so he eliminated most of the democratic election process, and he would be in charge of who he elected to fulfill current government positions. However, Augustus was not a bad leader, as he totally expanded Rome's internal infrastructure and made Rome an international powerhouse. Okay, so here are some of our fun facts. And here are the rest of our fun facts. Here we have our 12 Latin terms, so here are the first 6. Here's the latter 6. Here are 5 useful websites. And we have finally our questionnaire. So, what was the main position citizens voted for each year? That was the council. There were 2 people elected to the council, and again, they were the head of Rome during that time period. Who was the most influential political leader in ancient Rome? Many would say it was Caesar, and what we mean by political leader, and that means during the election process, like during the election days, and that would be Caesar because of just how he revolutionized Rome, and he had the greatest impact by far of any ancient leader. So, did the election system mimic a democracy? Technically, yes, it did, as supposedly the people had the power by voting, but due to all the corruption, it really wasn't a democracy, and it was more of the political elite had the majority of the power. So what role did women play in the election? Unfortunately, women were not allowed to vote most cases in the election, so they had very little say. And how often did elections occur? Elections for every position within office occurred annually. Okay, so this was our presentation, and thank you so much for listening.